Welcome to a James Bell Associates podcast series on pathways to child welfare careers. This podcast series was developed on behalf of the Children's Bureau, Administration for Children and Families, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, by James Bell Associates, a consulting firm based in the Washington, D.C. area that provides research, evaluation, and technical assistance services in child welfare and related human service fields. For this podcast series, we'll be discussing programs and initiatives at the federal, state, and local level, and through partnerships with community colleges and universities, to assist students in obtaining the academic and professional credentials needed to launch careers in child welfare, and to support current professionals through ongoing training and support programs. To introduce listeners to an array of perspectives on building and sustaining the child welfare workforce, Drs. Amanda Barczyk and Leah Bouchard with James Bell Associates will be speaking with child welfare professionals, students, and academics who each bring unique and valuable insights into the various avenues for launching a career in child welfare and for aiding current professionals through ongoing training and support systems. Thank you for joining us as we learn about educational and training pathways for careers in child welfare.
Hello, this is Amanda Barczyk.
And this is Leah Bouchard.
Today we're excited to speak with Drs. Austin Griffiths and Jonny Silva. Dr. Griffiths has over 17 years of combined professional practice experience in both child and adult protective services and in facilitating applied research. He is the director of Western Kentucky University's LifeSkills Center for Child Welfare Education and Research and is an associate professor in the Department of Social Work. Dr. Griffiths is passionate about improving the lives of families and children, and the majority of his research is focused on improving the lives of professionals who work with this population by enhancing their health, wellness, and work-life balance. Dr. Silva holds a doctorate of social work with practice experience in frontline child welfare, psychotherapy, crisis intervention, substance use services, and medical social work. From Chicagoland, he is deeply committed to improving the mental health access, particularly for youth and college students. His work is grounded in both clinical expertise and a systems-level understanding of social issues. Dr. Silva currently serves as a psychiatric social worker in a hospital setting where he uses practice-based knowledge to drive meaningful change in social work, education, and community mental health. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you. To get us started, as you both know, we're super interested in learning about various pathways to a career in child welfare. I was curious, Dr. Griffiths, how did you enter the child welfare field?
Well, greetings. It's great to be here today. I'm really excited to be here, and no doubt this is an honor. I guess my pathway to child welfare is wrapped around two different things. My faith is something that really matters to me. So I'm one of these that's, in my heart, I really want to help people, just as a real basic thing. So I've always been driven to assist others who are in need. And I also feel like it's really a responsibility that I have to be able to contribute. It's just not good enough to kind of see things that are difficult or challenging and just kind of sit around and wait and kind of hope things get better. So to me, it's something that's inherent. It's who I am. It's in my heart. I just have always felt that way. So I feel like it's something that I have a responsibility to get out and do something about it. After I got out of the military, I began working in construction. So I was taking classes in AutoCAD and digging ditches and wearing a hard hat, really good, important work. But I just felt like there was something else that was kind of a calling for me. And I had applied on the state register after I got my undergrad in sociology. And I got a paper letter in the mail that they were hiring for social service workers. I remember that day. I still remember that day. And so what it kind of made me think about was this possible solid connection between a couple of things. Not only the opportunity to do something really meaningful in a different way, but it was really practical endeavor. The idea that you could also, not only make a difference, but, possibly have some good benefits, right? Maybe some retirement, get out and meet new people, maybe increase my education and things like that. So, this is a while ago, and almost 20 years later, the rest is history. So I think it's the best decision I ever made. I think I've met a lot of folks over many, many years that have a lot of really unique and compelling stories about how they got into this career field. But for the most part, that's mine. So I'm happy to share it with y'all.
Well, first, thank you for your service. And second, I was also curious what made you interested in pursuing an academic career focused on child welfare? How did you make that leap?
Well, I think it's another good question. For the most part, I worked in investigations. I did ongoing work as well as investigations, but at times I specialized in investigations and child protection here in rural Kentucky. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona, so working with families in rural Kentucky was certainly a unique blessing. But with that said, over the course of time, for doing that work for about 7 years, I just felt like it became really clear to me that there's so many professionals that do just amazing work every day, do amazing work really hard. They give everything they can to improving the lives of others. And I felt that, right? But over the course of time, I just felt like there were so many systematic challenges and problems that made our jobs as professionals even more difficult. And I just felt like I couldn't improve those circumstances while I worked as a frontline worker in that system. And that's not knocking the system as a whole. I think that folks do the very best that they can, but I just felt like I could make a much more of a difference if I wasn't in that system. So there was an opportunity to apply at the university for a job. I did that. And in 2013, I started at Western Kentucky University at a position called the Child Welfare Support Coordinator. It was funded through federal Title IV money. Primarily did admissions and advising, working with or frontline child welfare workers that wanted to get their master's in social work. I did that job to the best of my ability, driven to help other child welfare workers and other folks that wanted to get their master in social work, certainly. But immediately I asked for the support and received it of my employer. How could I get additional training and education to really make a difference in the child welfare system? So I started my Ph.D. at the University of Kentucky almost immediately. It was really cool. I drove across the state every Friday, 137 miles each way into a different time zone,
Wow,
back and
that's
forth.
cool to you.
Yeah, back and forth, right, across a different time zone every Friday, but it was life-changing. Earned my PhD at the University of Kentucky in less than 4 years, and eventually got a faculty position here at Western Kentucky University, and learned a lot of skills and connections, and really challenged and was challenged. But with all of that said, now I'm a associate professor with tenure here at Western Kentucky University, and we work as hard as we possibly can. I'm also the director of the LifeSkills Center for Child Welfare Education and Research, and we have been around for over 5 years now. So it's one of those things that I really feel like if you're really focused and you work with others and driven, that certainly good things can happen. So I really wanted to get into that academic setting because I think that the university can play a vital role in improving the lives of others. And I thought that was a missing piece, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Dr. Silva, what about you? What was your pathway to a career in child welfare?
Yeah, well, I, being from Chicagoland, was excited to go out and attend college. And once I got to college, then the big questions start coming up of what are you going to major in? What are your interests? And I, met with several academic advisors to figure out what it is that I'm going to pursue. And, I looked at psychology, looked at sociology, and eventually landed on a major in social work. And as soon as I started getting into some of those introductory courses, a world opened up that really changed my perspective. I don't have, as a child, any experience in child welfare, being in the system, or really being involved with helping professions aside from like my pediatric doctor. So I didn't realize what this world looked like until I came across a competitive preparatory program through Western Kentucky University. And it really is a collaborative among several other schools in the state. But this program assists students to become competent child welfare practitioners within the state. And really, there's several benefits to the program, but I would say the biggest benefit was coming out with a lined up job as soon as I graduate, as soon as I graduated from my undergrad program, where I stepped into a full service role as an investigative worker and an ongoing case manager. But this came with a lot of preparation. It wasn't just you take a couple classes and then you are launched out into the world. As a young 20-something-year-old, that can feel a little bit intimidating, stepping into courtrooms, stepping into people's homes and doing, home evaluations, everything that goes along with child welfare. But it really was um, inclusive of an internship, additional coursework that helped us navigate and understand the systemic level functions of child welfare. So for me, this program in public child welfare set me on that path to get right in, boots on the ground and start to help my local community. Now, I was living in Kentucky at that point, and so I really did uh, become passionate about the community. Really, anywhere that you put me, I'm going to be passionate about the community, but especially being in Kentucky, which is a vastly different setting from Chicagoland, being more rural setting, and there's a lot, it's a different pace. And so I was able to adjust and become really passionate about that. And while I was on the front lines doing daily one-to-one interactions with clients, I just felt like it was something that I had never experienced before and was something that I grew very passionate about very quickly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That support and that rootedness in community is so essential for early career social workers, and it seems like that was really vital for you.
Absolutely. And just that mentorship piece, I think, really starting out in an undergrad program helped me to see myself in that setting, even though, it's not like you can just really try child welfare out. It really is something that you prepare for. And so that mentorship went a long way in my preparation for practice.
Yeah, that's great. And I do think that social workers kind of get that background to be able to adapt in different communities. Um, but I know you both also have experience working with various disciplines. So, what do each of you see as the benefits of having a multidisciplinary approach to child welfare workforce training and education?
I will say this too, before we get into that multidisciplinary piece. What Dr. Silva was speaking to are really two, I guess, direct pathways towards working in child welfare that they have in Kentucky and elsewhere. So I wanted to mention this. He's talking about what used to be called the Public Child Welfare Certification Program, and that's for individuals that are undergraduate students at universities where they pay for the second half, roughly, of their undergraduate education, and in turn, you will be given a job with the state's child protection agency, and you will provide them with 2 years of service. So it's a really awesome program, and now that's called CW Prep. Now, I earned my MSW, as I mentioned earlier, my undergrad's in sociology. And so I had already worked for the state government, as I kind of spoke about. It was a real practical endeavor, but I worked for the state government. And then there was an opportunity for me to get the MSW stipend program. They have this in other states too. It's really outstanding. But the state paid for my master's in social work while I worked for the child welfare system. And I obviously was responsible for paying that back through service. But what a great opportunity to increase my education while I'm serving the state in the child capacity realm. Now, to your kind of prompt about a multidisciplinary approach, the value of it, all that other stuff. I guess the first thing that I would have to say is the value that I see as it pertains to multidisciplinary education is I'm so thankful to be a social worker. Certainly. I'm so thankful for my frontline service experience and all the stuff that I've done. But it's so obvious to me that we can all do so much more together. I mean, it is so obvious to me. And there was a commissioner formerly named Eric Clark for Kentucky's child welfare system that used to say child welfare belongs to all of us. And I really kind of understood that on like a high level, but now it deeply means something to me that multidisciplinary approaches towards education and training are critical, because not only does it give you new insight into common problems that you'll see, but it connects you with professionals who will be operating, and one might think independently, but as you merge and have this kind of collective alliance, it's like a real thing. So we'll talk here in a little bit about this class that we've created at our university to kind of merge this stuff. But in the broadest sense, having a better awareness that child protection workers and even social workers themselves are not alone as we work towards improving the lives of others. And certainly there is access on behalf of others who really, really care about families and children, and they're readily willing and able to provide resources and time and energy towards solution. I mean, that's everything. And I think there's creative ways that folks can get on board to create effective solutions, because I think that's what we've seen at our center is the things that we're doing that are effective really involve multidisciplinary approaches. So that's kind of what I wanted to start with.
Yeah, thank you for that. What about you, Dr. Silva?
Yeah, I would say, well, in the scope of child welfare, you certainly have social workers, but you have a lot of other majors represented as well. There's a lot of human service professionals that go into child welfare. And so, what comes to my mind as a social worker is I want to always practice within my scope of practice. So, using my ethical code, making sure that I'm not stepping outside of my competence. And so I think in especially human services, there's a pressure to have all the answers, but let's be realistic. We really have to rely on other professions to have input, their perception, their viewpoints. And it actually helps me strengthen my scope of practice because it's just not feasible for me to play doctor, attorney, therapist, school administrator, the list goes on. And so in child welfare, on a single day, you might encounter all of the professions I just mentioned. And so that multidisciplinary approach actually amplifies child welfare workers to be experts in their scope of practice, in their position, even whether you're an investigator, an ongoing case manager, working with permanency or adoption or the court system. We're the ones that are in clients' homes. We're doing transports. We're you know, testifying in court. So we're doing all of this. And among all of these roles, sometimes we have to remove ourselves to make sure that we're being objective in practice. We're making sure that we are ethical and that we also don't spread ourselves too thin because, burnout is real and we have to make sure that we're caring for ourselves as much as we're caring for our clients. And it's really great to be passionate about things, but at a certain point, there's that threshold where passion starts to turn into no longer passion, but rather an obligation. And I never want to practice out of obligation. I love what I do, and I want to continue to do that, for a career, because child welfare and human service practice is a career. It's not just a job. And that's one of the reasons why I did step into, um, social work practice and child welfare is because I wanted the longevity of a solid career.
No, those are great points. And I know that I was definitely trained in a multidisciplinary way too. I not just took classes at other universities, but really got to work with other professionals. And I was just curious, what are some examples of the knowledge and skills from human service fields that are particularly useful for child welfare professionals that they can learn from others?
Yeah, I'll just follow up from what I previously said. In a single day, we can be several roles, whether it's like an empathetic counselor or whatnot. But really, what I learned, let's start academically by taking, throughout my coursework, taking courses in psychology, I see the adjacent fields, and I feel stronger because of taking some of those courses that amplifies, the individual mind and everything that clinically is kind of going on with individuals. But, you know, I consider child welfare in the multidisciplinary setting as a micro role, macro, and meso, because you're operating individual clients, you're engaging with individual clients, you're engaging with systems, and then the systems at large. So, you know, I think it's necessary to recognize that we are stronger, like Dr. Griffiths said, we are stronger because we have these adjacent fields that contribute. And just because one profession is elevated at a certain moment doesn't take away from another profession. I think, there's an equilibrium that happens when we all contribute, and it's really for the best of the people. It's for the best interest of the people that we serve.
I could give a couple of examples too, and my mind goes towards some of the research that we're doing. Certainly, right now we have a couple of major projects here at our research center. One of them is the Child Welfare Analytics Collaborative, and one of our key analysts is has a different professional background, but her office is right next to mine, and she's heavily versed in a lot of data science and other things. And while I have a Ph.D. in social work, it's not in that. And so it's really exciting because we're able to connect and we're able to talk about data science, but I can provide this lens about kind of the human condition and kind of the important stuff about what these numbers and what this data might mean as far as the impact on services and policy and people. This individual can certainly push me and challenge me and help me to understand more about the analytical process and help us to do better and to do more with the way that we do that. Now, another example would be in our biometric research, which maybe we can talk about here in a second. We've worked really hard to create a pathway to better understanding the job stress that child welfare workers face. For many, many years, it's been only a subjective path towards understanding the stress that child welfare workers face, which is good, but more can be done. Now, using biometric technology certainly should and does include the utilization of medical professionals. In our recent project has brought in medical professionals, and I and our team and Dr. Silva knows about this. We've learned so much from involving and integrating and relying on these medical professionals to help us understand things like oxygen levels and heart rate variability. And that doesn't take away from us, but what a contribution it is.
Right.
Because we can now understand what heart rate variability and RMSSD actually means when child welfare workers don't sleep well, and what the implications are on behalf of real potential for chronic health issues, and why it's important to support these workers, because they're heroes and they do incredible work. And that's not to run anyone away from this job. This job is very important and changes are being made. But having this multidisciplinary approach, not only for learning, but for partnerships and contributions, is vital. And good things are happening.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do each of you see as barriers to implementing this multidisciplinary approach to child welfare workforce training and education?
I guess I'll start, if that's okay. My first thought as far as barriers is, everyone talks about funding. Naturally, that's kind of a first thought. But I think funding is kind of nested in maybe folks having a certain vision. And not to get too far into the weeds here, but I would hope that people can see that multidisciplinary teams and contributions are valuable. And I think it's the first step. As I mentioned before, and I'll keep saying this forever, former Commissioner Clark used to say child welfare belongs to everyone. It does. And we can all make a difference and we can all contribute. So what we have done is worked collectively where there's a real return on investment for example, our community mental health providers, LifeSkills, and they're wonderful. And they wanted to be a part of the stuff that we're doing and work every day really hard to have a great partnership with them. And they have professionals that do excellent work of really every professional background, and they provide services across the lifespan. So we're providing evaluations, we're assisting them with this, they're assisting us with that. So the idea would be, while funding in the broadest sense could be a potential barrier, and if folks are listening to this, we have worked really hard to make it clear that if we're creative and we start kind of from a grassroots approach, state government, Kentucky County for Health and Family Services, working really hard to collectively build things that can be mutually beneficial on a very, very basic level, it's been cool and it's been fruitful. And I can say that, I think, and this doesn't hopefully sound any other way than honest, where there's a will, there's a way. But this multidisciplinary piece, sometimes folks might need a little encouragement or kind of maybe a little conversation, right? And we're social workers, we can have those fun conversations, but realizing that we can do so much more together. And I think that when we're a part of a team, it's just much more effective and efficient. So big picture, I think that, especially given the potential audience for this podcast, when people think about funding, there are different creative avenues for funding. But I'm finding in my last however long that looking at different pathways for funding, it really has the kind of basis of it is that multidisciplinary approach where we can get different folks on board, where we can all contribute, and that we can really in good faith say we're working together on this because families and children are worth it, and we can all contribute to improve this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Silva, what about you? Are there any barriers that you've seen in implementing a multidisciplinary approach?
Yeah, I would say what comes to mind is, as a child welfare practitioner, as a social worker, human service professional, whatever you want to call me, I know what I do. I know what I was trained to do. I know what it looks like in practice. I could probably think through what a day might look like working with other professions in the child welfare setting. But my question is, do other professions understand what we do? Do other adjacent helping services understand just the let's say competence piece, the compliance, as someone who graduated from a program accredited by the Council on Social Work Education, as someone who has advanced training in child welfare, when I'm sat at a table with other professions, sometimes I think, do I have an equal voice at the table if I'm sitting at a table with someone who has, you know, a, a Ph.D. or a Ph.D. or, someone who's an attorney? Sometimes I just, my question, maybe it's more of a question than a statement, but do other professions understand the work that we do? And is that weighted of similar value when we're sat at a table together making decisions? And I think that is one of the reasons why I personally went on to advance my education even more, so I could understand and hold even more weight for some of those decisions. A lot of people don't understand that social workers and human service professionals operate at the bachelor's, master's, and doctoral level. And I think that's probably one of the barriers is we're really passionate about what we do, but sometimes maybe other adjacent fields may not understand the scope of practice just yet. And I say just yet because this field is evolving, and the roles are evolving, the education is evolving, um, access is evolving. So it really is a positive thing, and really to be part of a workforce in this generation, I think is powerful as well, to continually push that needle forward.
Absolutely.
And that's probably even more difficult because social workers have such a broad range of roles
Mm,
depending on what their specialty is. So I totally agree that there is often misunderstanding about what social workers do. Dr. Griffiths, could you tell us about the LifeSkills Center for Child Welfare Education and Research? I was curious how the courses like the Introduction to Child Welfare course prepare child welfare workers to work with other disciplines.
Sure, absolutely. So our center's been here for over 5 years, and it's located in the College of Health and Human Services at Western Kentucky University. As mentioned, it's certainly very multidisciplinary. We've got 19 full-time now 20 full-time staff members.
Congratulations to that 20th person who just joined
Yeah,
your
but
team.
yeah, she'll start on the 15th. So this is exciting stuff, but very multidisciplinary, no doubt. Heavily supported, as mentioned, by Kentucky's Cabinet for Health and Family Services and Life Skills, and our university and others, without question, not to leave anybody out. But the idea is, as we talk about our new class, we've got these three major projects here. We've got the Integrated Family Trauma Treatment Clinic, which provides free clinical services for parents and children, which is really amazing. Also, we've got the Training Resource Center, which is located here with us, but it provides services across the entire state for independent living, for resource parents, and all that stuff. And also the Child Welfare Analytics Collaborative, which I've talked about, which uses data science to inform decision making on behalf of a lot of services with Kentucky's child welfare system. So, to your question and your prompt, really about our Introduction to Child Welfare class, I'd like to kind of pull in what Dr. Silva was saying, and it kind of makes me think about social workers, or really child protection and child welfare, kind of just being misunderstood. At times, we kind of don't really have a clear understanding of kind of the role of social workers, or maybe kind of what we do and how we do it. So we've created a class called CHHS 100, which is Introduction to Child Welfare. Now, a couple cool things about it is a general ed course at our university. It's a pretty big university, right? So it's a general ed course, and kind of the basic tenets of it are, it provides a basic understanding of child welfare and child protection. So these are, what they are. But child welfare is child protection, which is what I worked in. It's part of child welfare, but child protection is child protection. So what we're doing is we're reaching out to students who may be future educators, and that's great, but now they're going to have an understanding of child welfare and child protection, and they're going to be involved in a class. This is the cool part, among other things, where the kind of hallmark assignment is a group assignment where they're going to be put together with students from other academic disciplines. They're going to be presented with a pretty complicated but manageable, kind of understandable social problem on behalf of a family, and they're going to work together to find a solution. They're all going to bring their kind of professional viewpoint, and they're all going to contribute, and they're going to propose solutions toward what might happen on behalf of what could they suggest to do for a solution on behalf of this family. So we're really working to immerse students at the freshman level that are coming from all different academic disciplines, but it's not really a recruiting pitch for social work students, while some might become social workers, because what we're talking about is nursing students, educators, future, the freshmen, or sophomores, maybe legal, business, certainly social workers. It's a great pathway, and it's a good thing that can be adopted elsewhere too. So what we're doing also is, of course, we're evaluating it. So this class has quickly grown from about 20 students to about 100. I would say quickly we could increase that, but we're all about quality. So the thing is that we have an ongoing evaluative mechanism. So students are saying that this is better preparing them to be professionals when engaging with the child welfare system, no matter their academic discipline, their professional discipline. It's bridging gaps. It's helping them to create alliances too. And this is cool because they're going to be professionals, a lot of them in that area, but elsewhere. So they're meeting other professionals that are certainly passionate about the child welfare. And I'll finish with this. They're going to have a better understanding about child welfare and child protection right from the get-go. So we're not coming around on the back end when people have been a pediatrician for 20 years We're talking about right from the start to have an understanding about how folks can kind of have a better understanding and they can collaborate and work together towards building alliances. So I wanted to mention that, and that's something that we're really excited about. And if there's anything I can do to help others about potentially adopting something like that, I know people are doing great stuff otherwise, but we've just found that it's an incredible avenue for moving towards really alliance building and kind of that awareness piece, right? That awareness piece and helping people to have access to each other and building that community approach when it's based on child welfare. So appreciate that.
That's really unique. And I think it's particularly important because, well, we've been saying that not everybody understands what social workers do, but not every social worker understands what other professions do either. And being able to have kind of that framework to really be able to work together and learn from each other, it's a really great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Griffiths, I know researchers in your center are conducting multidisciplinary research, and they're providing graduate assistants with opportunities to be a part of that research. Can you talk about your own research focused on the child welfare workforce?
Sure. And I think Dr. Silva can contribute to that
Yes,
too.
please.
But yeah, that's right. So I'm smiling over here. I guess one of the best things that I could mention just briefly would be our Kentucky Child Welfare Workforce Wellness Initiative. This is kind of a step out of some work I did basically through my dissertation at the University of Kentucky. And the idea is, as I mentioned earlier, all of the work out of assessing workforce stress, which isn't a secret on behalf of child welfare workers, has been subjective. So you're talking about firsthand, impressions and opinions and generally survey work, which is really, really important. But moving forward to try to leverage some hard data, some objective data, some biometric data to really provide the agency and the workers with some evidence so they can make a difference, it was time because other professions such as nursing, especially, and my wife's been a nurse for, I don't know, 20 years, so I'm aware of this. They have used biometric data and physiological data in their research, but not in child welfare. So we've done that now. We've used wearable biometric devices. There's multiple publications out of it, but that's something that's really been a next step forward. Now, I'll say a couple things just briefly that we know that this stress is significant, but we didn't know or have a clue how it impacted the worker on a physiological health in a physiological health kind of related way. So now providing a better kind of viewpoint for the workers themselves, having medical professionals involved. And it was really streamlined, right? So the workers would wear these devices. They were already charged. They would take them off in 3 days. There was just a incredibly robust amount of data that we're able to collect. It was something that was really humbling because you're talking about individuals giving us a lot of information, and I believe that they trusted us to do the right thing with it, which we have done, to help them and the agency to advocate for better working conditions, which they have. So with all of that said, the workforce is incredibly important. It's not a secret that there's stress involved with that job, but sometimes the best advocacy doesn't necessarily have a huge return on investment. So what I tell my students all the time is evidence equals advocacy. And it was all about getting some evidence. We needed more evidence. We needed to up the game. We needed to move towards something that would provide some really substantial evidence about sleep, about stress, about heart, about all that stuff. And we have it, and we're moving towards providing interventions now, providing health related interventions. All that other stuff is the next phase. Now, we've done a little bit of that, but Dr. Silva knows from a firsthand point of view. And I would say he might speak to that a little bit if asked. But with all that said, it was really fun and exciting. And that's something that I'm incredibly dedicated to, especially after being a frontline worker and experiencing that myself. So my heart goes out to these workers, nothing but love.
You spoke a little bit about this, Dr. Griffiths, about how the multidisciplinary approach benefits your work. I'm wondering if there's anything you wanted to add before we go get Dr. Silva's perspective.
Well, I just think I would like to mention that from a professional lens, it is incredibly fulfilling to be a part of a team that you know is equipped to move towards addressing significant, long-withstanding social problems when you have folks that are dedicated and prepared, and that's really where I'm at. And I don't know if my words are coming out right. I had a football coach a long time ago that used to say, having the right tool for the right job, and I still remember that. But the idea would be is that if we think that we're going to effectively move towards solutions with one or two individuals with one or two wonderful skill sets, I think that we're probably going to end up where we're at. So moving towards multidisciplinary approaches with folks that can contribute, alliances, teamwork, contributions, specializations, but kind of mutual contributions. I mean, the last thing that I wanted to mention with that is it's also very satisfying and fulfilling because I get to learn from others and it's fun. I mean, it really is fun. It's something that really is like, I don't know. It's just, there's a good energy. It's a lot of fun to be able to meet new people, learn new things, and you feel like, because you can see the fruit off of that, you feel like you're moving in the right direction and quickly. So that's kind of the thing that I wanted to say about that's the only thing I'm going to do, and that's the only thing that I believe in, is this multidisciplinary approach. And that's not to discount social workers, because I am one and I'm all about social work. I'm going to keep them right next to me, but being involved with multidisciplinary folks has been just an absolute blessing. I mean, it has been exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Dr. Silva, what have you found most beneficial about working on this multidisciplinary research project?
Yeah, well, what an honor to be part of really groundbreaking research that is using innovative technology. I think when I first saw the research or the invitation to participate, I didn't know what half of this even meant. And as I quickly realized, what we learn in school is not always what's reflective in the full capacity of what practice looks like. And by participating in the biometric research, I started to realize that self care and ensuring wellness as a child welfare practitioner looks a lot of different ways. There is no particular formula or recipe for how to best serve yourself while you're serving your community. And, utilizing we had wearable devices, and participating in this research was really cool to actually see um, just the extent of how your heart rate fluctuates based on setting. I'm not someone that prefers to be in court all the time. So when I'm in court, my heart rate's probably through the roof. But all of this, all the data together really points to the idea that when you have a moment to nurture yourself and give back to yourself throughout the day, do it. Whether that is setting out a soft mat on your office floor, putting on a 5 minute, even if it's 5 minute, 3 minute mindfulness, and now having that clinical perspective. And as a doctor of social work, as a practitioner, I realize that even what I learned throughout this biometric research as an undergrad, or just after graduating my undergrad, I still use those principles today. And it's real because the impacts are real, and knowledge is power. And so the more that we can identify stressors and mitigate those and nurture ourselves, we are going to be better for it. And in turn, our clients and our team members, we have child welfare is not a solo sport. It really is a team effort. And so that's probably what I learned most about participating in the research and seeing the implications on wellness.
It's amazing. Thank you.
That is great. And I love what you said about self-care. I think that is just so crucial for the field. I even did box breathing before this just to calm myself down before doing the interview. I think that it's just crucial for everyone to do, but also people working in such stressful conditions. And you all are actually showing physically how stressful it can be on one's body. So to wrap us up, I was curious if either of you had anything else that you think would be important for someone who's interested in a career in child welfare to know.
I would say, and I think it's already been mentioned, but child welfare is not just one thing. It is a lot of things, whether it's front end, whether it's, a little bit more in the background behind the curtain. There are so many roles within the scope of child welfare practice. And the beautiful thing about being in a diverse helping profession is that you can transfer so many of those skills and so many of those experiences to help with advancing your particular area of practice. And I would just say that the research that's happening right now is moving the needle forward and really speaking to the needs of the workers, because certainly there might be professionals that are also researchers that are also on the front lines, but like I mentioned, not you just can't do everything. And so even Dr. Griffith's research and allowing him to remain kind of the expert, the full-on expert in this field, helps me as a practitioner when I work with youth and children and families. It helps me to be better because there's research to point to the interventions that I'm participating in. It helps me to be a better practitioner. So I'm just really grateful for Dr. Griffith's research and even just his mentorship in my role as becoming a social worker, advancing my education. Dr. Griffiths has been just instrumental for myself, but also so many others in the field of child welfare. And so hats off to Dr. Griffiths.
Well, thanks, Dr. Silva. I appreciate that. And, I care about you. If anyone doesn't know, I had Dr. Silva in class before. So, and now we're colleagues. So this is pretty cool. With that said, I guess I'll finish with this. One of the most unique things to me about child welfare and child protection specifically, and this isn't just saying it, I mean, every day is different. I mean, I love that. Every day is different. Honestly, it's exciting. I mean, every day is different. I mean, you're out, you're seeing people, you're moving, you're grooving. I mean, every day is different. So if you're looking to engage and meet and I mean, every day is different. So that's true. Another piece is that really and truly around the world, not just in this country, but around the world for the most part, there are so many folks just like you that are moving towards physicians in child welfare and child protection, where they are dedicated towards doing the same thing. I work with folks in Ireland, South Africa, you name it. They are just absolutely dedicated towards utilizing interventions to support families, but also support the workers, because a healthy workforce leads to a healthier community. So the idea would be just considering what you could do with your time, because time is limited. And sometimes, when 20 years ago, I thought I had all kinds of time. Well, maybe, but the idea is time's limited. So my recommendation as I sign off here would be, you'll never have to look back and wonder if you made a difference. If you work in child welfare, you will never have to wonder if you made a difference. And that's the truth. So I appreciate your time. And if there's anything I can ever do for anyone, please just reach out.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate both of y'all's time. And that is definitely a powerful statement for us to end on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both for being here. And thank you again for listening to today's podcast. Remember to stay tuned for the last episode of our podcast series, in which we'll continue to bring you information about the pathways to build and sustain productive and rewarding careers in child welfare. If you enjoy our podcast episodes, please share them with your colleagues and others who may find them relevant and useful. We're your hosts,
Amanda Barczyk
and Leah Bouchard, and this has been a James Bell Associates podcast.
This podcast series was produced and distributed by James Bell Associates on behalf of the Children's Bureau, Administration for Children and Families, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under contract number HHS P 233-201-500-133I. The opinions and ideas expressed in the podcasts are those of the panelists and do not necessarily represent the official views, policies, or positions of the Children's Bureau, the Administration for Children and Families, or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.